Before we begin, in 2019, YouTube was caught data mining children under the age of 13, violating the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies meant to dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. This video is not made for kids. It is not targeted at kids. It is not advertising to kids. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. This month, I was in a podcast over at Security Kitchen Productions channel. I'll make sure to put in an annotation. And I talked about what story arcs I was planning to cover, or at least a couple of them I was planning to cover. And so today we are starting our look at the Locum Doctors trilogy, starting with The Defectors, released in April of 2015, written and directed by Nicholas Briggs. The Defectors star Sylvester McCoy as the 7th Doctor and Katie Manning as Jo Grant. Also featured in the cast are David Graham and Richard Franklin. As always, I will be discussing spoilers, so this is your one and only warning. And right off the bat, before we get into the review, I want to say this is a last-minute change. I was originally planning to cover the Nyssa arc, but I had to change last minute, mainly because money. I thought the Nyssa arc was 7 stories, and I only needed one more, the Emerald Tiger, but it turns out that that arc is actually 12 stories, and I need 6 more. But, despite that, I have wanted to get into the Locum Doctors trilogy for a while, so I figured what better time, here we are. Let's get right into it. And the Locum Doctors trilogy, or The Defectors, opens with the 3rd Doctor has basically gone missing. No one knows what happened, no one has any explanation, and in his place, the 7th Doctor suddenly shows up. And that's what locum means. Locum means substitute, basically. So this is kind of what the idea of this trilogy is, and actually in the making of for this, Nicholas Briggs said this was a way to do stories from the first 3 eras of Doctor Who, the Hartnell, Troughton, and Pertwee eras, without having those Doctors. I don't think, I need to double check, but I don't think the early adventures or the 3rd Doctor adventures ranges existed yet at this point. But anyway, when the 7th Doctor shows up, the military has sort of taken over for UNIT, and they need the Doctor and Jo to go on a mission. And right away, the 7th Doctor, realizes things are amiss, because he knows this is not his right time, this is not his right iteration, but the military doesn't seem to realize that. They just know who the Doctor is. They don't know that he's regenerated. They don't know that this isn't the 3rd Doctor. And one thing I will say is, Nicholas Briggs, as a writer, is very hit and miss with me. Some stories of his are really good, Beneath the Viscoid being, from The War Master, being one of my favorites. I also enjoy The Light at the End, and, well, actually, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. But other times, not so much. He's very inconsistent. But one thing I will give him credit for is that he very clearly knows and understands the Pertwee era. The sound design, the type of story, the character interactions. He very clearly understands what this era is. And that really comes through in the atmosphere of this story. Sylvester McCoy and Katie Manning are actually a really good pair. They play off each other really well. And, it's... How do I want to approach that? And it's interesting because, how do I want to phrase that? Nothing of their characters is, no, that's not how I want to go there. I don't know how to approach that, but yeah, no, Sylvester McCoy and Katie Manning have great chemistry, despite the fact that this is not the 3rd Doctor, the 7th Doctor still does manage to establish a rapport with Jo. He manages... There is a way to describe the relationship between the 7th Doctor and Katie Manning in this story, and it's bugging me because the words aren't coming to me. Although now that I think about it, I do think the depiction of the Seventh Doctor here is a little flat. Not too bad, but it feels like maybe his season 25 personification, whereas season 24, he was very Troughton-like, very clowny, very comedic. And then season 26, he was the chess master, He'd already figured out how to win the game before the story even began. And season 25 was kind of that middle ground. He still had more clownish moments, but they were toned down, and he was starting to embody more of that chess master persona, but not as dark as he would be in season 26. And I do think that is kind of a hindrance to the Seventh Doctor, because he really shines in his darker chess master persona. So, actually, now that I think about it, that was also kind of my problem with Muse of Fire. Anyway, but yeah, it's interesting, because the Doctor knows something is wrong here, and you can see he's playing his cards close to his chest, that when we get to the end, and we learn that he's sort of known the entire time that something wasn't right, it is very satisfying. And similarly, Jo is really good as well. Despite the fact she doesn't trust the Doctor, she still wants to figure out what's going on her own. I think what also helps this story is it's a very small cast of characters. Like, aside from Mike and 3 other characters, the main cast is only 5 characters. There's the Doctor and Jo, there's 2 military officers who are in charge of this operation, and then there is a scientist. And having such a small cast really helps this story, because it helps the characters we do have develop and really rounds them out, especially Hedgerton, the scientist. Like, there's this really great tragedy to, as we get more and more explanation, there's this really great tragedy to what has happened to him. And the 2 military officers, I think it was like Commander Wingford and I am forgetting the other guy's name, but they're also really good. Like, they always say what they're doing, this mission they have the Doctor and Jo on, is in the interest of national security, but they're being very dodgy. And I think it helps because every time they dodge a question or slip up and, show their unease at something that at a remark the Doctor's made, it really adds to the tension. But there are some issues with this story. Like, the music, for me, is the biggest one. Like, a lot of times in this story, during some of these really tense moments, there was sort of this jaunty, plodding music, and for me, it was like, that scoring contradicts the mood of the scene you're going for. And it happens quite a few times. It was a little grating, not gonna lie. And then in the back half of the story, when we get the reveal of the aliens, that was also kind of an issue, because all we ever get in the story from the dialogue is that they can swim in the sea and fly. There's nothing else. Like, pretty much all you get for a description of the aliens is this thing on the cover. And I still don't know what that thing is. But they are the Europans. They are the last of the native species of Jupiter's now dead moon, Europa. And the sound design, also, now that I think about it, was sort of a failing on the Europans, because it's the Silurians. It's the same sound design they use for the Silurians. It's not distracting, but yeah, you listen to it and you can go, hey, that's the Silurians. The climax... But anyway, what's been going on, I should probably delve more into the plot, is that the Europans have been stranded on Earth for nearly 30 years. I like how, even though there's supposed to be this time frame to it to show how long the aliens have been here and how long this island has been under their control, they're still being really dodgy about the unit timeline. I thought that was a nice touch. But yeah, while leaving Europa, the Europans crash landed on Earth, where they were brought to Delphin Island, which was a famous site for high-level defectors during the Cold War, and I think earlier, where they were experimented on, and then the Europans took over and have been trying to find a way to escape the planet. Thinking about it now, talking about it, this, again, is a very Third Doctor story, where the aliens aren't necessarily the antagonists. But, they want their own way of life, and they were sort of caught up accidentally, and it's down to the Doctor to figure out how to weave around them and their relations with the humans. Which, of course, it's ultimately the humans that screw everything up. Which is actually a great moment for Jo when she realizes that, yes, the aliens are innocent, for lack of a better word, and she realizes that by calling Mike and telling him what's been going on, she may have just screwed them over. And it really lends to the tragedy of what happens at the end, where the Doctor agreed to help the Europans, but when Jo realizes that the Doctor's helping would kill the TARDIS, she stops them, destroying their ship, stranding them on Earth. And in a fit of rage, the Europans try to kill the Doctor and Jo, only for Mike and Unit to show up to gun them down. And there's a lot of good character moments in this story. Like I mentioned, the Doctor, particularly, playing the game, holding his cards close. And particularly between Jo and Edgerton, there's a good relationship between them that, again, sort of has this tragic undertone when you realize just how badly the Europans have damaged him. Is there anything else I want to go into? Nope. I guess I'll wrap up there. The Defectors is a decent story. I found it above average. I didn't think it was great or anything, but I did enjoy listening to it. Like I said, there were moments with the score that really kind of bugged me, and a few times there was some tonal whiplash. Like, you had this sort of serious moment, and then out of the blue, there'd be something comedic happen that made it feel... And that comedic moment didn't feel earned, it didn't feel built up properly, so it felt out of the blue. Like I said, tonal whiplash. I'm going to give the Defectors a 7 out of 10. And join me next week when the Locum Doctors trilogy continues. Another Doctor goes missing, and another Doctor is pulled out of time to fill in his place. So join me when the sixth Doctor teams up with Jamie and Zoe in Last of the Cybermen. But what were your thoughts on the Defectors? Start a conversation in the comments below. I like conversation and debate. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video around as it helps my channel grow. In the description box below, you'll find the link to my Ko-fi where you can help support the channel, and you'll find the link to my Twitter where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and I'll see you guys next time.